Welcome back. Another week, Rush Hour Pod. I'm Jackie Chan. We got Chris Tucker. Oh, my bad.
We're back
I
at
keep
it.
messing that up. I'm TW. This is Justin, and we have an incredible guest. This is the first time we've had a guest, so of
I
course,
know.
one of
This
my
is
best
awesome.
friends in life here. Like, let me do the crazy intro. I've known Manesh for like 15 years. We met through work at Zynga, and then we've been tight ever since. Basically, we've been through the trenches. But Manesh has done these incredible transformations in his career, and that's kind of why we wanted him to join. He went from an mechanical engineer, to then getting into tech, and then even within tech, from BD to marketing to growth to entertainment, Twitch. I mean, he's kind of for me and Justin, he's brought us along. And on a
100%.
personal level, I consider him one of my best friends. I literally, any big life decision, I'm gonna call him and just go through him because he's an incredibly smart, logical human being. So welcome, Manesh Ladd. What's up, Manesh?
Thanks,
Woohoo!
T. That was quite the introduction, and also you need a bigger mic, bro. I don't know, like what is
No,
that thing in front of
this
you,
is from our friends. This is from our friends at Twitch. So this is the
bro?
microphone setup they give to like streamers.
Oh, got it.
So I
Okay.
took one, and then my cheap ass kept it. Um, so no,
Shout out
let's
Twitch.
yeah, shout out Twitch where we all worked. Let's start with how you got into tech, but before that, like what was your sort of concentration? You were in Texas, you're born and raised. We can see
Right,
from the Dirk and Luca jerseys in the back.
right. That's right.
You believe the Texas, but walk us through that. Your original idea, like out of school, you're a mechanical
Yeah.
engineer.
So I was I'd grown up. My father was an engineer, so it kind of influenced a lot of what I thought about jobs and careers, and so I went to Texas A&M as a mechanical engineering major, and graduated and went to work for General Electric right out of school. So I was an engineer there, building power plants using GE jet engines. So it was pretty cool. I got to travel all over the world as a young guy, kind of building these power plants. And this is back, late '90s, early 2000s, kind of that era. And that job was fun, but I also was really interested in technology, in the computers and all the stuff. And you guys remember that's when the internet was starting to get going. And I really wanted to get into that space. And I found it was difficult. I was in Houston at the time, and Houston just didn't have any of those kind of jobs, right? And so I looked around for a while and was able to get a role at Dell. And this is back when Dell was like a really strong PC company. If
Yep.
you guys remember the
Yep.
dude you get into Dell commercials, all that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
And at the time, they were building out their enterprise server business. So they were looking for technical people to come in, regardless of what your technical background was, just because they're trying to just hire. And so that was the first time I kind of ran into like the tech mentality of just hiring smart people and they'll learn the business. And so I was able to join, and I kind of entered as more of a project manager role in their enterprise server development. So I was overseeing hardware development for a bunch of engineering teams and kind of helping them figure out what was going on. Sorry, my computer's making weird noises. And anyways, I got into that, and I did that role for a couple years. I think that's right when the market crashed, the first .com.
Yep.
Yep.
And as I was doing that, I was able to internally switch to a, what we would call now a product manager job, but back then they didn't call it that. It was just like a marketing job. And basically, I was one of the product managers over the Dell.com website. So if you remember back in the day, you could configure your computer, like how
Yeah.
much RAM you wanted and all that stuff
Mm-hmm.
on there.
Yep.
Like I was optimizing that web page
Wow.
to improve click through and improve conversion. So the first kind of growth hacker, like we're
There we
kind of
go.
figuring out how to optimize all that stuff. So that's kind of where I got exposed to web and growth and how to do those things. And so did that for a while, and then I kind of hit an inflection point in my life where I felt like I kind of topped out in terms of my background, but where I wanted to go. And I also was kind of sick of working. I just wanted to break. So I left Dell and went full time to business school. And so I went to the University of Texas in Macomb School MBA program full time, and it was like one of the best decisions I ever made because one, it was just a nice break, but it was also a good kind of reflection point on things I want to do in my career. And so there, I know Justin, you were in business school for a while. Like
Yep.
you get to meet people from different backgrounds and from different kind of just things that they've tried, and opens your eyes to different paths. And so, long story short, I got the MBA and I really wanted to stay in tech. And so I got a job at Microsoft through the MBA recruiting and really wanted to live on the West Coast. So moved up to Seattle. I lived in Seattle for a while, worked at Microsoft doing a few different roles. Started off as kind of a product marketer for Microsoft Office. Justin and I actually worked in the
Shout
same
out,
building.
shout out to the Office
Great.
division.
Yeah, yeah. So
Building 30, building 36, right?
yeah, helped launch Office 2010, if you remember that. And so
Yep.
so did that for a while, then switched into a role internally related to the Microsoft direct to consumer business. So selling Office directly to consumers. So, download, convert a trial, all that stuff, kind of ran that business, which within Microsoft it was pretty small, but for me it was a big deal. It's kind of,
Yeah.
small team running this. So really, again, got exposed more to the internet and how to grow businesses that way. And I was at Microsoft for a while, like 4 or 5 years. This is when the financial crisis happened. And after that, coming out of there, I was also ready to kind of go somewhere smaller because Microsoft, it's a big company, 100,000 people. You kind of get the fear and I don't know if this is true or not, but this is how I felt at the time, as I felt I was learning how to work at Microsoft and not learning how to like run a business or like have skills outside of working in this big company. And so I remember I would have nightmares about it. Like, oh God, I'm going to be one of these lifers who's here for 30 years and not learn how to do anything else. This is scaring me. And so, and the other thing is I wanted to leave Seattle just for a different kind of pace. And so I moved to the Bay Area. This is where I met T-Dubs. Got a job at Zynga, and man, that was eye opening. It was completely different than Microsoft. Like you go from it's big corporate pace where the kind of managing up and that kind of stuff was really important. Where Zynga was the opposite. It was like, hey, do your job, deliver your numbers, like bang, 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 go, 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 go. And when I first got there, it was hard. Like I was like, man, this is a lot different than what I was used to. But I really enjoyed it because it's the first time in a while I felt like I was learning again. Like I learned back then we were using Facebook to grow the business and just learning all that stuff. Worked with this guy John Marsland, who one of the smartest guys I know. He built out this ad tech tool that would upload thousands of ads into Facebook. Like it was just like all this crazy stuff we were doing at the time that was really fun. And if you guys follow that business, and Tito knows this, it was kind of an up and down ride. It was my first time going through an IPO. Didn't really work out the way we thought, but it was cool to experience that. We had the big Nasdaq thing at our office and all that stuff, and so kind of rode that and did that for a while, and then from there transitioned to Twitter. So right after Twitter went public, I went there, and I would say if I look back at my career, I think this is the one place where I really enjoyed it, but also I felt I grew the most as a business person because I entered as kind of a growth person, helping the platform grow. But then at the time, the company was going through so many transitions, different leadership. Jack Dorsey had come back. I had through my career kind of up leveled a little bit and reported directly to the CMO. So it was kind of a new experience for me being that high up. And this is all during like the 2016, 2017 election period and all the craziness with Trump. And so all these
Way
things were
before
kind of
that.
happening at once. And but it was fun. Like I had a lot of fun at that job.
Let
And
actually, can we pause there for a second?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna take you back a little bit and just jump in here.
Yeah,
I'll probably need your thought process in this as well. But
sure.
when you were deciding I'm gonna go to business school, you said, "Hey, I was a little bit burnt out. I kind of felt tapped out." What like was the ultimate decision, or what was the ultimate factor in your
yeah.
decision?
I mean, it was a few things. I think one, I was always wanting to go to business school just as a I don't know, just like a thing I wanted to do. And then at Dell, I was doing that product manager role, and I just couldn't see a path to the next level without that MBA. And I don't know if it was true or not. I probably could have,
Yeah,
but it just felt like everyone that I saw in those roles had MBAs,
gotcha.
and I was like, had this perception that I just have an engineering degree. They're not gonna.
Yeah.
I think looking back on it, I think that was wrong. I think that would have been fine, but that was my perception at the time. And then I just felt like I didn't have any business experience, and I thought I needed that. So it was like that element of things, but also candidly, like I was just burned out, and I was like, I need to take a break, but I need to do it in a productive way. I think now people just travel the world for a year, which probably been a lot more fun. But back then, that's kind of how I thought about it.
That was
And
your sabbatical.
also,
Yeah.
at the age I was at then, I knew if I didn't do it then, I probably would miss the window because there's kind of a window you need to do it.
Yeah.
And so it was just all these things kind of lined up.
So
How
we
about you,
have,
Justin? When you were deciding,
yeah.
when you were deciding to go, what were your thoughts there?
So my thought process was a lot like Manish's. Part of it was like I had gotten some pressure from my folks. They said, "Hey, if you're gonna do business school at any point, like you're getting up there, you're getting close to your 30s, like now's the time to do it or not." And then additionally, I was coming from a marketing background. I wasn't necessarily sure where I was going to ultimately end up career wise. I liked doing marketing. I felt like I understood it. At the same time, I hadn't taken accounting classes. I hadn't taken some kind of more serious business classes. And I wanted to just be able to be in rooms where you're talking about EBITDA, net income, and gross margins and things like that, and be conversant enough to kind of follow the conversation and where it's going as I got more senior. So like those are the primary reasons. But then also Tuck was really interesting because I kind of use it as an arbitrage. Like it's not a school that was necessarily known for entrepreneurship, but I wanted to kind of try to do something there. And I knew that I could grab more resources there than at like, a Harvard or a Stanford or MIT that's like more entrepreneurially focused. So I was kind of like the black dating app guy. Everybody else was doing management consulting. And I was like, yeah, I'll take that money or I'll do that pitch competition. Or yeah, Sam Altman's going to be on campus. Hell yeah, I'm going to go, spend time with him like kind of alone, right? Because not everybody was
Right.
doing that. So that was
Yeah.
that was kind of the thought process.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I felt some of that. When I was in business school, I remember I kind of had this point where you go to the academic classes, so that if you want to be a brand manager, you kind of go to those classes that are led by those type of people. Or if you want to be an entrepreneur, you go to the classes that were like startup founders that had created them. And so I was lucky at Texas; we had a pretty big entrepreneurial kind of
Mm.
like spirit there. And so most of the classes I took were actually ex startup people or ex founders who teach class on the side. And I found I learned more in those versus the pure academic things because I think that's just how my brain was wired.
Yeah.
So I totally hear you, Justin. I wouldn't have got
Yeah.
exposed to that otherwise. So,
100%.
Yeah.
What
Because
TW, if you don't mind?
I was
Oh,
thinking
go ahead.
about. No, I was just going to add to that. I'm the opposite. I did the math, at that age, and I was like, hey, the lift I'm going to get in salary minus the time it takes, because ultimately I'd have to pay for this schooling,
yeah.
and I'm out here in the Bay. It was expensive, and like I gotten a taste of like the startups.com millionaire thing. So I had convinced myself I didn't need it, and I kind of ruled it out. So I love hearing that how you guys thought about it and actually went, and it totally worked out. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I was fortunate. I had state, it was a state school for me, and so the costs, worked out in the math long term. But yeah, if you go to, I don't know, Justin, you went to Harvard, right? I think there, it costs a lot more. It's a different.
just just building off that quickly, a lot of folks who follow this channel are younger as well and at the beginning of their careers and trying to figure out how to navigate the current environment. So I know it may be semi hard to put yourself in the shoes of someone now. There have been changes in tech and business and economic forces, et cetera. But if they're thinking about, the transition from a technical career in business school or like deciding to go to some type of master's program, how might you be thinking about it now that might have been different than in the past, or maybe it's the same?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that much changes. I think if you're someone who's trying to change career paths, like if you're an engineer and you want to be a marketer, or you're a finance person, you want to be a product manager, I think then going to business school makes a lot of sense because you kind of get a reset. You get a reset coming out, right? But that's being said, you can still do it. I think if you're at a company like a Google or a Microsoft or something like that, where they take internal transfers, maybe someone will take a chance on you and transition from, if you're a high performer in a certain group, you can switch over to another one and learn a new set of skills. I've seen that happen a lot, and I think those people do really well. So it's all about getting your foot in the door, which I think the school thing helps because you can just kind of come as a new person. But if you can do that in another way, I think it's good. And I think the one good thing about I've noticed in the Bay Area, because so many people do that, there's a lot of opportunities for people to take a chance on you. It's a little bit harder now, like Justin, because the way the economy is and just hiring is kind of tough. But I think when the market's better, I think people are more open to like, okay, this guy's a smart guy. We
We'll
can
figure it
get him
out.
in here to do some of the stuff. But
Yeah.
you also have to kind of be humble and accept, if you're a director at a bank and now you're going to go to a startup, you're bottom barrel person. You're going to be doing the grunt work until you
Yep.
kind of work your way up. You have to kind of accept.
Great.
What
Maybe
was your
transition back
process in that, Justin?
of thinking about like how I would go back, now if I had to do it again.
Yeah.
I kind of use it as a hack. Like I kind of use business school as a way to kind of work on a startup idea, and it worked. And I didn't graduate. I left after the
Yeah.
first year and worked full time on my startup. So, for me, it was kind of a means to an end to get access to resources in that network. And I think the cool thing about Tuck was, if you spend a little time there, it's such a close network that you can kind of reach out to all Tuck alums. I still get the benefit of it. So if I wasn't going to do something entrepreneurial and I had just stayed within, kind of tech marketing, I probably wouldn't have gone because most of the people who I knew who left business school ended up like if they were in tech market, doing marketing at a tech company before, they just ended up back in a Microsoft or an Amazon. I feel like I could have just gone from Microsoft, since I had spent time at Microsoft, I feel like I could have gotten back there. But yeah, if you're doing something like more entrepreneurial or making a switch, like Manesh said, then I think it could make more sense, particularly if you don't have certain skill sets that you want to shore up or want to be at like a larger company.
It is. I don't know. I was thinking about this the other day because I really didn't realize how much college costs now, like just even for undergrad. And I was like trying to figure out why is it why has it gone up that much? It's crazy. And then I started going through my head like, we're having a debate about MBAs. Is it even worth it? I wonder now if college is even worth it.
Mm.
Like if you could build a lot of these skills, like if you're a computer programmer or some of these other things like that, without having to go to school. Especially with AI and all those tools that are out there. So I think that's gonna be an interesting thing to watch in the next few years. Like how many young people decide like college is so expensive, it doesn't even make sense to go. I could learn most of the stuff on my own, or I go into like one of the trades, which is pretty good right now too, because there's not enough people doing this.
Yeah, I think that's a
Go
great
ahead,
point.
Justin. Did I interrupt
Something
you?
we,
You had a question?
yeah. Oh no, I think that's a great point. And something we've, I think, discussed on prior episodes are like how to think about education, how to think about building skill sets or what you need to do with the advent, like with everything going on with AI and Gen AI, et cetera. I feel like college, if you want to go into kind of a industry career path where it's like you're a doctor or an engineer or someone who kind of needs you actually kind of need that formal training and all the years in order to do the job,
Right.
it makes more sense. Otherwise, if you're going into tech or you're more entrepreneurially inclined, you may not necessarily need it as much. I think that like the Harvards and the Stanfords, MITs, they'll always be the luxury brands that exist. And if you can kind of afford and make it work, I went to Harvard. Like like let's keep it real. It's a tremendous network. It's one of the best networks that exists. If you can kind of figure out a way to make that work, then I think it makes sense to go. But if you're kind of the longer tail of schools that are still excellent but don't have necessarily the same brand cachet, relative to the cost, I think there's more of a thought process that's probably involved and whether it's worth it.
Well,
And I
it's
think
also
that's
about
completely
your
fair.
funding, right? If
Yeah.
you're paying for yourself versus your parents versus loans, and there's a
Yeah,
lot of that.
totally. Maybe T-Dub will transition back to the Twitter piece because I'd love to kind of hear about you said you were kind of talking about that being maybe the penultimate kind of business experience you had and learning
Yeah.
opportunity, and would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting time because who I was reporting to and kind of the structure of Twitter, I was exposed to the C level, the C suite basically for the first time on a interaction basis. And Twitter at the time was just so crazy with everything going on that you were seeing people like Jack Dorsey and Anthony Noto, who I work kind of for. You see them in the day to day, like throes of what was going on at the time, and you see these really smart people who later on you realize how smart they were and how successful they are. But you see them in the day to day operation of a business, and you just kind of learn how that works. And he kind of puts everyone in reality of like, okay, he's just a human like us. He's trying to figure out the rest of us. And so it kind of gave me a lot of confidence. Okay, there's nothing special about these guys. I mean, they're really smart, but they're trying to figure out like the rest of us. And so I think that light bulb kind of clicked on in my head of like, okay, I can do this too,
Mm.
and so that helped a lot, and also just the conversations that are a level really interesting. And at the time when I was there, I don't know if you guys remember, that's when Twitter, I don't know the real story, but I think we almost got bought by Disney, and there's like a huge meeting around that. There's just a lot of just crazy stuff at the time when I worked there that was going on that just kind of influenced how I thought about businesses and how I put in reality of what really happens versus how you think about it when you're a younger person. And then also, the 2016 election just sticks out in my head because of Trump and how he was using the platform and how we working there had to react, right? Because we didn't know. It was all we just saw our user numbers go way up when he joined, and all the stuff going on. Then like we were getting death threats at our office from different groups. It was just like nuts, you know. And my poor boss, this woman I worked for, you know, I felt so bad for her because she was having to deal with like the PR on this stuff. You know, how do you tell the press like, no, we're not going to ban them, or we are going to ban them? And you know, it was just like a crazy time in that world. And like looking back at now and all the stuff that's happened to Twitter with Elon and even free speech in general, it's just funny to see kind of the evolution of how all that changed, especially after 2020.
Yeah.
And being on the front end edge of that.
Yeah, what in terms of your time there and where it is now, like, can you envision what it's like to be there now? Like,
Hmm.
given
Oh
what's
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel bad, you know, because they closed the office here, which is kind of iconic, you know. And I don't know, you know, I feel bad for the people that work there because I think there's a lot of people who really put their heart and soul in that place. But you know, I guess I get why Elon did that. I don't know. I have bittersweet feelings about that place because like I still have my Twitter like swag around here, and I don't want to get rid of it just because I feel like it might be a collector's item.
yeah,
You know. And but yeah, but it's you know it's the only social platform I really still use. You know, I don't use Facebook really anymore. Instagram on there every now and then, but I find it still very useful. You know, especially in some of the stuff I'm doing now. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. You know, I feel bad for it, but I'm also glad Elon took it over in the sense of like he's so successful, he'll make this successful. You know, in some way.
I would say one going back to like our time together at Zynga and some of your work experience at Microsoft. I remember you telling some of the stories about when you were at Microsoft and the presentations you would do. You talked about managing up earlier.
Yeah,
Maybe like you taught me the most about that in terms of like prepping for a presentation, how to lay it out, how to think about it. Maybe give some people some advice who are kind of in that junior want to get higher roles. How do they
yeah.
sort of manage up? What are some tips?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the bigger your company is, I guess even a small company, but even your big company is, that part of it becomes more and more important. And Justin, you were there. You remember how this was. Like, if you're a junior person that was going to eventually present to like a high level person, you literally had to go through so many people with that same presentation, and they would give you feedback, and you would practice it. And so you did it so many times. By the time you got to the actual thing, it was kind of anticlimactic because everyone, you know, 3 levels or 4 levels above you was on board with it. They're all in the room with you when you present it. So if something goes off the rails, you usually can jump in. And so, while painful, it was a good experience of learning what the criteria is and getting to someone at that level. Because, you know, Microsoft, those people are like, even at the VP level, most of those people used to be CEOs or something, you know, high, and they got acquired
Right.
or they got hired in.
Yeah.
So these are very senior, smart people that you're eventually getting in front of. And the prep that it takes to get there, like, while at the time I hated it, you know, it helped me a lot. It helped me all the way to my last job. You know, like, you know, just coming in like, all right, here's the expectations. If you're gonna go in front of someone, you know, like when we were at Twitch, you know, we had to present a case to not Bezos, Andy Jassy for a big sponsorship we wanted to do. And I was like, yeah, no problem. You know, we can do it because I kind of knew what to do. And I would say for anyone junior, kind of look at that prep and with open eyes and be um, you know, kind of the growth mindset on that. Like, you know, your boss or whoever might be on you, but the reason why they do it is it'll help you. You know, and at the time, I hated it. I hated prepping for that. I felt like it was a waste of time, but looking back on it, it really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
And it just teaches you how to be succinct in your communication,
Yes.
how to deliver things in a way that is concise, but also delivers the impact you want. Because I think what I found is you start with a slide with like a million different things on it, and then you end up with like 3 bullet points, and then you learn the narrative of how to land that. So that was super helpful. But even, you know, when we were all at Twitch, we did the Amazon model, the 6 pager model,
Yeah.
and it was
Before
kind of the opposite, right? You write these like long documents
yeah,
of
you
like all these
narrate through it.
details, and even then, that training helped because I think in the summary, you kind of learn how to summarize all that together and write all that stuff. So
Yeah, I found that so interesting because when we were at Zynga, I remember before we would present, Farmville, Cityville, whatever strawberry harvesting thing we had to do. It was always like, all right, no words. How do we visualize this in one graphic?
Yeah.
And Manesh was always incredible at that. Like he would be like, "All right, this is how we're like we want to say this. Here's how we should try to craft that visualization of it." And that's something I still use today, like all the time, in terms of like when I need to build a deck, when I need to think about it, like how do you succinctly um, formulate your thoughts into one sort
Yeah.
of vision.
Someone who I think he used to be a consultant had told me this. He's like, if your slides look good, they assume the rest of it is good. Like it was like kind of like that, or the opposite of like if your presentation's a mess, they're gonna assume your analysis is a mess.
Mm,
And so you kind of have to think about it that way.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's fair. And then, yeah, like we went to Twitch and we were under the Amazon. I mean, it changed over the course of time. In the beginning, it was very like 1 pager, 3 pager, 6 pager. And
Right.
then towards the end, when I left, it was very like, it went back to like, how pretty is your slides and how, and
Yeah.
like, it was really strange. But anyway,
For-
b- beside beside that, I thought that was
that's because I left. Yeah.
probably
you know, like like we discussed at the beginning, part of the reason why we wanted to have you on, Manesh, is because you've had just like such an incredible career and all these transitions, et cetera. And you've had these really storied company brand names, right? From Microsoft to Zynga to Twitter, NBA. You kind of can't miss, man, in terms of the type of opportunity. So, how much of that is kind of like preparing for? Is inbound people reaching out to you? How much of it is you thinking about the general landscape of opportunities and trying to do stuff like going where the puck is heading versus interest? Like, how have you thought about
Um,
navigating those transitions to those companies?
yeah, I've been fortunate in the sense that a lot of it's like your network kind of brings you along to certain places, and so I've been fortunate to kind of find opportunities where people that I know have things that come up, and then able to kind of take advantage of that. But for me, you kind of go back to what your I hate this word, but like core principles and what you like, right? And so for me, I've always liked working in technology, and then through time, it was like the internet-based stuff like that we did. Like I liked seeing the results right away, being able to measure right away, kind of being on that stuff was really kind of fun to see. And then even but then this is where your interest as just what you're interested in as a person comes in. Like I was really interested in the streaming stuff, early on, even at Twitter. Um, I worked on Thursday Night Football, which we were the first internet platform to have streaming sports that in that way. And so I was able to get on that project, kind of exposing to that stuff, and that's kind of what led me to Twitch, right? Because streaming is all about what Twitch is all about, right? And then my last job at the NBA, they were transitioning from a pure media company to a tech company, and so it all kind of lined up for me in the sense of like things I was interested in what was happening in the market all kind of lined up. But I would say for anyone in their career, like you got to find something you're interested in and and have some alignment with what you're doing at work because it's just not going to be fun. I've been fortunate. I worked in gaming, I worked in sports. All those things are passions of mine outside of the job, and so it makes it a lot easier to be there and kind of taking the bullets of these things when you're working at something that you enjoy.
I love that. I think I've kind of found that, in my career as well. Like the job, the experience I've had where I've kind of performed the best and also had the most fun is where it's aligned with like an interest set. So I think, live
Yeah.
streaming, the gaming space, social consumer, the things that I would be doing outside the job, being able to kind of get paid to do that. And again, you're going to have challenges, et cetera, but having at least like some core interest in it, I think is
Yeah.
that's really great advice. And that's something that I've kind of,
people, obviously, people
and the
being
people,
number one,
100%.
right? Because I
Yeah,
look back
like
at,
T Dubs, and T Dubs, we know is a huge sports movie guy, and I don't know if what you're doing now, T Dubs, with that whole space, but I was still like, man, that's like if you could find a role doing that, like that would you'd kill it, like you'd be the best in the world at it, just because he's so passionate about it.
yeah, no, that is that
Yeah,
I followed that. I went down that path. Was I'm
yeah,
doing that now. I
yeah,
was at Golden. Now I'm at eBay. It's been great. Like it's something I enjoy, and it's now tied into my work. So yeah, it feels like kind of like you're always on. But I will go back to like where Justin and I met at Tag. I mean, I was married with kids. It turned out to be a dating site, but like because of our relationship and like being friends and the impact we could make on the business, that was up there with like incredible
Yeah.
experiences and like being there. So I wouldn't say it's all like, when I look back on it, that was one of the better experiences I've ever had, mostly because we were so tied in the business and the impact of it. The product didn't matter anymore because it was like, holy you guys are moving it.
Yeah.
You guys are making a huge impact, and it felt really like fulfilling. It had
Yeah.
nothing to do with you know
Yeah.
being like passionate about. I mean, Justin was, because he had started a dating app, so he was much more entrenched. But for me, I didn't even know it was a dating app when I started working there. So like, I can't say that was a passion of mine. But it was cool. We learned so much.
Your
And
wife listens to the podcast, right?
no, definitely was not on there at night, I promise.
Yeah, maybe that's a good transition. I mean, Manesh has an incredible background in growth, like growth from the early OG days of kind of Zynga to Twitter to Twitch, NBA. Doing growth in media. How have you? Like, I imagine a lot of people are listening to this podcast trying to get some kind of tips and tricks from you, or trying to understand like what are some frameworks, at least as you think about growth, that have kind of worked over your career and you've been able to apply at the different companies, even if they aren't necessarily in the same space.
Yeah, I that's a good question. I'm kind of thinking through it. I think the every place I've been, one thing that's always kind of been hard to get right, but once you get it right, you get everything working is measurement, right? And so I think if you're starting off a company, like if I was doing a startup and it was like an internet-based thing, I would be on everyone to make sure the wiring of all the measurement and all that stuff is in place, because then it unlocks everything you can do after that. Because after that, there's no magic formula. I used to tell this to people I work with at the NBA, like it's the death by 1,000 cuts. It's like growth by 1,000 tests. It's growth. It's like you just have to try. You have to do things. There's no one formula, and it changes so much, right? Like Zynga, we are all using the Facebook platform to grow. I don't know if that even works anymore. Like I have no idea. Like at least the viral stuff, right? Now it's all ad based, and so things change so much that you just have to be willing to um, kind of invest in the idea of experimentation and open to failing and then learning and keep going and the velocity and don't get bogged down by just different mechanisms that may not work. Just keep trying stuff. So I don't know, like that's a good question on frameworks. I mean, there's tons of testing frameworks and things like that, but for me, I always think about like Uber goals and where we're trying to get to, and then just kind of working down from there. And I just following up on that, I think one thing that I've seen that's interesting is when we were working together, we were really focused on what I would call core growth metrics around user growth, app downloads, things like that. And lately, last few roles I've had, we've taken that same idea and those types of thought and moved them up funnel. So we were trying to figure out like how do you take that stuff and apply it to brand, which is like kind of
Mm-hmm.
new. And Larissa, who you guys know worked with us, she did a great job figuring out how to take those kind of growth mentalities and apply it to brand metrics and moving awareness and different things like that. And so that's why I think it's good to see that type of thinking kind of moving up the funnel. And I think that's where things are going to go.
And what are your thoughts now with AI being obviously on the top of everybody's minds in tech? Like, we never talked about this. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on like AI and where as far as like where it's going to go for us? Number one, selfishly, as you know, people in tech that are working, and then
Yeah.
for the consumer.
I mean, I'm bullish. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to what I would call the entry level jobs in terms of I'll think about programming per se. Maybe you don't need that junior engineer to create these simple programs. You can have the AI do it, but you still need like an engineering mind or an engineering leader to figure out what you want, And so I was actually having a debate with someone the other day. I think being a product manager, the role changes, like becomes even more important, right? Because now you're telling an AI to build something versus an entire engineering team. You have to be even more specific, probably versus a human kind of interpreting things. So in that way, I think the roles like that are more important. Creative, I have a friend who's a creative director. He's worried about his role kind of going away, and I was like, well, I don't know, because you still need the art. If it's art and science, you still need the art, and I don't know if a computer can come up with that. So you need a creative director who can kind of direct an AI to build like an ad the right way or whatever. And I think some of the stuff that's like mechanical gets taken up by the AI, like ad optimization. It's already happened, but like, you don't need somebody optimizing click through rates. The AI will do it and maybe figure out the right combination of elements to make something better. But you still need like someone who has the general thought of how to set up everything. So I don't know. That's kind of where I think it. Maybe one day it all just takes it over and we don't have to do anything. But I still think you need someone who has business sense or a sense of what the product is to be able to kind of deliver a goal and then instruct the AI to do it. Early
And
days, anyways.
and how about personally? Like, do you use Chat GPT or any other AI thing in your sort of regular life outside of
Not in
work?
my daily. I use it every now and then to do random things. Like I had to write an exec bio. Like I had it write mine for me. I just dropped my resume in there and I dropped a few bios that are similar to mine that I liked. Like, hey, take all these and write one for me. And it does a pretty good job for that. So I've been, it's kind of simple. And I've been using some of the creative design stuff as well, just so like, hey, create an image of this. I need something that looks like that for a business or whatever. So those are probably more simple use cases. But yeah, I've been kind of playing around with it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Justin, we're talking about how it really hasn't integrated in everyday life for most
Yeah,
people, right?
yeah.
We know it exists and we know it's kind of this thing of the future and everybody's betting on it, but like from a practical standpoint,
Yeah, I think that'll happen once. I think the next iPhone's supposed to have it, right? Or maybe the one after
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
I think
Yep.
once that happens, if they'll do a good job of incorporating, I think that's when you'll see it kind of come up. And then I'm curious when that happens, like what apps go away? Like, do you need all these apps if the phone can just do it for you? Like,
Yeah, there was a real, I don't know if y'all saw it, but there was like a demo of someone using Claude to create like an app on the fly based off of a prompt. And it was like an app to split up the bill between friends. And it did like a pretty good job. And it made me think
oh yeah,
about, at some point for consumer apps where you don't necessarily need kind of a large concentrated, network of people where they're more kind of like utility apps, things like that. And you probably just build your own, like relatively easy, or there'll just be, a ton out there. Like the relative cost of that stuff will come down. So I thought that's really interesting as like an application right now that's just kind of at a V1 that will,
yeah.
look a lot better than that over time.
It's when you get to the point where you use AI, like you just tell your AI to call Waymo to drive you somewhere. Like you don't deal with another human. It's just like you
Yeah.
show up. Yeah. So yeah.
Have you taken Waymo yet, Manesh?
Yeah, I've taken a few. Yeah, I took Cruise when it first came out, and then they got kind of canceled. And I've taken Waymo a few times. It's pretty
How,
cool.
how was it? Maybe for people who aren't in SF or haven't taken it, what was your
I mean, it's a
experience?
little surreal because it just pulls up and you hop in, and there is a voice prompt that tells you what to do, and then you just go on your way. And I live in San Francisco, and so the roads here in the city, at least, they're not too difficult other than the hills. But you have a lot of random things that happen, like cyclists come out, pedestrians come out, and I was purposely picking destinations that would take me through, Russian Hill, these other places where you just kind of a tight city area, and it would do great. It would like swerve around parked cars or delivery trucks, and we had a motorcycle come and cut us off, and it like brake really hard, and so it was really cool. I've taken a few friends in it, and now I think anybody can get in it. But I really like it. I'm going to be curious when it gets to be able to get on the highway and go at highway speeds, but I feel safer in that honestly. Driving. So
Oh,
what,
yeah.
have
what
you
are your
taken it?
thoughts on Elon and robo taxis for all the Teslas? Have you looked into that at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big that's probably the next investment case for Tesla. If you really believe in Tesla as a stock, I think that's like the thing that's going to unlock value. Because they have so much data now with all these Teslas on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Yep.
I don't know how his tech works, but I imagine it's just a flip they're going to switch they're going to be able to flip on. And all the cars can drive themselves. And then that's going to be really interesting because I think you go from I think TW and I are car guys, and I was thinking about this the other day, where I think you go with cars, and it's already starting to happen. You kind of split into two things. It's going to be a car's utility, and a car is like a hobby or luxury item.
entertainment.
And I think that'll be like a thing. Like, oh, my Tesla just takes me to work. I don't even think about it. Where I have my BMW to like really enjoy the weekends.
Just building on that, I think I'm also really excited about everything they're doing on the Optimus side in terms of kind of
Oh yeah,
deploying that kind of humanoid robot into like a B2B warehouse situation, for a few years, get a bunch of data. And then I imagine they're going to start just doing it internally at first, then contracting out to other companies, and then maybe, consumer use cases, make sure that they're not harming people, before them. But that,
You watched Terminator last night? Yes.
yeah, it seems like there's a lot of, whatever you think about Elon, there's a lot of reasons to be kind of bullish on the different bets that they're playing right now, and the tremendous amount of data that they have about the physical world, which I think is like a big differentiator they have versus competitors in the AI space.
I mean, that's the fun thing about living in the Bay Area. You get to, there's so many AI companies now, people trying to do this stuff, that you kind of around it. And, even if you just go out to a bar or something, you meet someone who's working on this stuff, it's kind of interesting, see what's happening.
So I don't know if this is like what your title is now, but you've done a lot of trading, in terms of trends, stocks, all of that. What are this is not investment advice.
Yeah,
But
this is not
what are
investment advice.
yeah, this is definitely not investment advice. But what are you seeing right now in the market? Like, it seems like every day it's an election year. People are kind of scared.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on where we
Um,
are, where we're heading,
yeah, I mean,
how you
in
play it?
general, it's been kind of a crazy year because, we have the AI trade going on where if you had bought any of these big tech or chip stocks, everything just took off and people did pretty well. I think now with the markets don't like uncertainty, right? Like they want to know what's going to happen, or I think they know what's going to happen. And right now, everything's just kind of uncertain because we have the election. They don't really know who's going to win, right? It's kind of a 50-50 toss up. Depending who wins, really kind of changes a lot of business implications in terms of taxes and things like that.
Right.
So there's uncertainty about that. The Federal Reserve kind of, you know, and interest rates are a big thing that people don't understand or have a feel for what they're going to do. They want them to cut. In fact, today, this Friday, we had a jobs report that was kind of weak. And so there's just a lot of uncertainty right now, this period of time. And I think for me personally, I'm kind of pulling back a little bit and waiting till maybe the elections is over to start putting a lot more money back in the market, just because there's just so much uncertainty around this. Um, there are day trade opportunities, but I think if you're just like a kind of buy and hold investor, I would kind of hold off a little bit and wait until all this stuff settles. Yeah,
Yeah, we talked about it prior. I pretty much sold everything. Just
Yeah,
yeah, that was smart. You like timed it perfectly. You should be the stock trader.
I know.
no,
Well,
it wasn't even it was just like I'm terrified. Everything seems really high. I don't have time to look at this. I'm out. Like, there wasn't a ton of thought that went into it other than
yeah, I'm just like, I'd be curious to get your opinion on this, Manesh. I'm kind of just long-term holder, ETFs, the ones that kind of follow the S&P 500, and then you probably familiar with some of these names like VGT, IWF.
Yeah,
I just kind of
that's smart.
put my money there, let it just sit, and try not to
Yeah,
think about
that's
it too much
smart.
over time.
Most people lose money trying to do what I'm doing. So yeah, no. Yeah, I think that's a smart way to go. Just because things kind of will always go up over time. It's just your entry is always the thing, right? So if you're just averaging in, you're good to go. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting time in the market. And I'm learning a lot. I'm not, obviously no expert, but just the psychology of the market's really interesting right now. Just learning what's going on.
and then obviously now, are you looking at other opportunities? Is California home for you now? Like, I know you came, Texas, you did Seattle, now you're in the Bay. Is the Bay
Yeah,
home for you? Is this
yeah, I
home?
think that's it. I like being here. I like the weather. Feels like the what we're all interested in, which is tech and some of the opportunities. It feels like it's kind of epicenter here, and so yeah, I think here's where I want to stay. Opportunity wise, like I'm kind of focusing on my own thing right now. I'm trying to make that work just because the timing was right. But always, if there's something cool out there, right opportunity, there's always a conversation to be had. But for me, and you guys, I think went through this. Is like you only have a few times to try something on your own that you really wanted to make accomplished, and so the window kind of came open for me this year to try it, and so I'm trying it. And then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But at least I did it, And so I'm in that mode right now, and yeah, we'll see, And also, I think until the election's over, and this is for anybody who's looking for a job, I don't think things are going to change until the election's over. I just have this sense that all companies, everyone's just kind of in a holding pattern until that
Yeah.
happens, and then they have a sense for what's going to go forward, and then I think opportunities will be there that are probably better than what.
I'm gonna ask one more question on the San Francisco, because you're actually in San Francisco. Well,
Yeah.
Me and Justin aren't in the the city, but what like give us. So many people are saying, "Oh, it's a zombie apocalypse land. It's everything is getting stolen. It's a huge mess. Everyone's doing meth." Tell tell us how's the meth? I mean, no, wait.
Yeah.
No, how is it really? Give us
Film
a
stuff.
real insight into how. What is it like
Oh,
in San Francisco? Like, sell us on the incredible time you're having every day.
sorry. Had something pop on my computer. So I think what people see is partly true, right? Like I don't think they're wrong in showing what's going on in the city, and you see that in the unrest in terms of the people who live here and pay taxes, basically, and are like, hey, we're paying all these taxes and the city's a mess. Um, I would say in the neighborhoods, like where I live, in the marina, different, like the neighborhoods are getting better and actually, to me, kind of back to pre-COVID levels.
Okay.
Downtown, though, is another story. Downtown's still pretty bad, especially in the Tenderloin, especially that mid-market area. It's probably worse than when we all worked down there, right? Like it's pretty
Definitely.
bad,
Yeah.
and I don't see a path to recover there anytime soon, just because everything that's happened with retail, the thefts and the foot traffic being down, and candidly, it's just going to take a lot of policy change here, which I think will happen. You're seeing a lot of people kind of question the current leadership, so I'm hopeful that this election cycle we get some change, some common sense comes back to try to build a city, and help small businesses and help people who live here kind of be here, versus I think it's been adversarial in the past. So I don't know. We'll see what he does. I'm cautiously bullish, but we'll see what happens in this mayoral race and kind of what comes of the seat of leadership at that point. But yeah, it's still downtown. I was down there the other day with my brother, and it's a little rough.
Yeah,
I mean, we had that
I was
49ers
there.
49ers player got robbed the other
I
day.
know.
So
He got shot in the chest. It's crazy. It's
I
like,
was like,
It was a
yeah,
kid that shot him. I mean, this
oh
is
my
yeah,
he was
God.
17.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Don't wear a Rolex downtown, right? So I don't know, man. We'll see. I know where you guys are in the burbs. It's probably not as bad. Justin, where are you? You still in East
Well,
Bay?
I'm in Oakland, man. So Oakland,
Oh, dude,
I
yeah.
love, disclaimer, I love Oakland. I may live here forever. That's kind of the plan right now. We bought a home here. It's really great. But the
Oh, nice.
downtown area, oh, thanks, man. Yeah, but the downtown area kind of following COVID and some of the, more left-leaning policies to a certain extent, like have created, just some of the crime and other things that when I talk to like people who've lived in Oakland forever, we're like, hey, it wasn't this bad before, in terms of some of those things. So I think they will probably, pull back. I don't think it should be a total pullback of like, let's go Magaland type of stuff, moving forward necessarily. But I think that there needs to be a bit more of a balance, and that'll happen. So I'm very bullish on, Bay Area
Yeah,
generally, on
yeah.
Oakland, on
I was
SF.
joking around with our friend Roxy, which he does know. I was joking around. I was like, "Yeah, we need." It's almost like we need the purge, like that movie, just to get everything so low that you can only go up, And so,
It feels like
yeah,
it's coming though, in terms of like a lot of people have left. Like it's kind of down to the people that really
yeah.
love
I
the
I
city.
mean, the scary thing is if you look, at least in San Francisco, I saw something like we're the per capita we spend the most money per citizen, but if we get the least back in terms of like what we clean streets, a lot of police,
Right.
that kind of stuff. And so what the challenge is, a lot of the tax revenue is leaving them. A lot of the companies or the high earners. And I want to say like the stat I saw was like 50% of the income from taxes come from like 1% of the people, and who are the high end people. But all those people are leaving, and
Wow.
so
Mm.
it's becoming like harder and harder to fill the revenue requirements. So then if you look at the equation, it's like, okay, revenue's going down, then how do we? You got to make costs go down, right? And so there's like, yeah, that's why I'm curious what's going to happen in the next few years where you have to resolve that, right? And so I don't know how they make revenue go up again unless they get businesses back into the downtown and companies come back and that kind of stuff. But they definitely need to make costs come down, and I think that's some of the stuff that has to happen.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Totally.
Manesh for office 20.
Yeah, maybe I should run.
Hey, listen, I'm with
He
it.
got my vote.
Yeah. Tito, since we're kind of like coming,
Wrapping up,
close
yeah.
to the hour, I had a few questions, like just maybe some questions I wanted to ask
Yeah,
Manesh,
do
just for the group, and then and see what he's thinking. So, like we talked about, a lot of people follow this channel trying to understand tech trends for people who have a non-technical background. I think that's part of the allure, but then also, job market and career advice, stuff like that. And so I thought it'd be interesting to ask you, what's the best piece of career advice you think you've ever received?
Oof. That's a good question. Let me think about that for a second. I think it's what we talked about earlier, where like if you're not somewhat passionate about where you are, you're not going to succeed, right? And it could be you're passionate about the tech or whatever it is, or it's the people. For me, I found kind of two things lined up. One is the actual thing I'm working on. I'm interested in that space, but also the people, right? And so my last few roles, I've actually been more concerned about the team I'm working with, or the people I'm working with, and I found that helped a lot. And so that's tough when you're young in your career because you don't really know anyone, you don't know what you want to do. But like I found if you kind of use those principles to figure out what you want to do, like that helps a lot because then it keeps the passion there. Otherwise, it's just a job. You're like, I'm just going to work, versus like going somewhere like, T-Dubs, when we were at Zynga when I first got there, it was a lot of fun, right? Like we had our marketing floor, we were always joking around. And so that makes it, I think, a different environment and a different mindset. But also I would say, be true to yourself, don't stay for the money. I think actually the best advice someone gave me, Justin, is like, don't take a job just for the money, because then you end up regretting it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think, like, especially where I am in my career now, where I still got young kids, still trying to optimize for cash flow, et cetera. But I think there's a balance in terms of really feeling like you're going to enjoy the role, the people you're working with. There's some alignment with the career trajectory. And if it's just about the money, a month in, you're going to forget. You're just going to be at this new base. You're not necessarily going to care, and you're not going to.
It's going to be a lot of money for it to matter that much, right?
Yeah. And so maybe one thing, we focus on kind of tech related things in this podcast. What's one tech trend you're most excited about next 5-10 years?
Well, I mean, besides the AI stuff, which is kind of obvious, I think that's going to change a lot of things. I think, that's a good question. Let me think about it. Yeah, I guess the transition into, it's like the self-driving cars, but it's like the humanless transportation, like that world, I think is going to be interesting. Like it's going to start with cars, maybe expands to other things. And then, just seeing how that impacts the auto industry is going to be interesting. Like, does Elon take that software and like license it out where any car company use it, or does he just keep it to himself? And then you start seeing car companies go away. I don't know. I think that's going to be interesting to see how transportation changes in the next 10 years based on what we see in what that does to city environments, what that does to like just the way cities operate. I think it's going to be interesting.
I am recovering from a cold over here and I'm dying. So I'm going to hand it over you. Also, what you said was just so inspiring. It's just caused me to.
Yeah, I was like, you're going to go do this now.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, having a full attack. No, I think in terms of the market and what you're looking at, the election year, what should we look out for this year? Like, are there things that are going to happen that are sort of a trigger for something else, at least, that you're looking out for? Is there something that you're
obviously, depending on who gets elected, things can move a lot. I think either way, once the election's over, I think the market will trend up, just because the uncertainty's out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's stuff like if a big war breaks out or, some other thing happens, you have to be kind of conscious of. But if you're a long-term investor and you're just kind of, like Justin doing ETFs stuff, I wouldn't even worry about all that stuff. I would just kind of, if you see a big drop one day, maybe go add some more money back in your account or whatever, because things tend to go up. But yeah, I don't think there's anything specifically you have to watch out for. If you're like doing, day trading or something like that, there's always things to watch out for. But T-Dubs, like in your case, I know you're like, hey, I'm going to buy back in on the next dip. Like for you, I would track how the indices like the S&P or the triple Qs are doing versus the yearly trend, and kind of see where they kind of dip against the averages, and say, hey, it's hitting a moving average or whatever, time to ease in and kind of do it that way. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I think the election, once that's over, things will be a lot.
What else you got, Justin? Or should we let Manesh?
No, I mean, that was fantastic.
I wanted to say something controversial or something that takes you guys viral, but then I might get like canceled. So
yeah, we don't need you.
Nah, just you being on, bro. Do you want to plug any of your socials or anything you're doing right now?
Oh no, that's all right. I don't need to do that. I'm kind of in stealth mode with what I'm doing right now. So once I
Okay.
come out of that, maybe I'll jump back on when I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
talk
let
to
you
you
I
guys
love
again.
that.
By
Uh,
then, you'll be like as big as the Rogan podcast.
There we go. One thing I want to, if it's okay, Tina, just to add what like
yeah.
I haven't known Manesh for as long. We met when I joined Twitch as part of his team in 2018. But we talk a lot about managers and career paths, et cetera. Manesh, hands down, one of the best managers I've had in my career. Not only just affability and like humanizing being at work, but his willingness to kind of bet on people, to give them rope, to let them, like achieve things and to put them at the forefront, let them get the shine and be more of a supportive role is something that was, phenomenal for my career and something I take him forward as a leader as well. So in this very public forum, I also want to share that with you.
Oh,
Definitely
thank you,
appreciate working on your team and the opportunity to work
thank
at
you,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, man. We got to give you your flowers. That's one thing I want to make sure.
While you're around, we got to give you the flowers. That's
Yeah,
right.
we got to give you the flowers. It's we we when we started this thing, we were always like, hey, we kind of do a lot of this, marketing, and we're doing it for companies. We're kind of under the covers. So part of this podcast was like, hey, let's come out and talk about some of the stuff and how we think and the people we've met and just kind of introduce them out. So
I remember T Dubs and I. Well, this is at Zynga. We're in a different place, so we used to joke around having. It wasn't called podcast though, but it was just like a show where we would just get on and crack jokes at people all day. So,
yes,
so you can kind of do that, and maybe you go viral on that. I don't
yeah, you know, I'm trying to not be canceled as much.
know.
We don't want to get canceled. That's
Don't want
that's
to get
important.
canceled.
Don't do that.
We have
Don't
jobs.
get don't get banned on YouTube.
No,
Our
no,
favorite, my
definitely not.
favorite line at Zynga: "Don't get fired." Going into these meetings, we're like, "Just don't get fired,
Yeah,
Manesh. Whatever you do,
that
do
was the
not get fired."
that was the baseline. Don't
Yeah,
get fired.
that was the running joke for whenever someone would go into a big meeting. All right, man, just don't get fired. We'll see you after the meeting. Yeah,
There you go.
clearly. No, we again appreciate you jumping on.
No, this is fun, man. Happy to jump on again whenever.
Yeah, we'll leave your at least we'll put your LinkedIn in the bio. At least we'll put that in there if you want to connect with Manesh on anything. He's got incredible wealth of experience, and then obviously Justin and I we're down to help. So hit us up, and we'll see you on the next rush hour.
Gotta like and
Yes, sir.
subscribe, right?
Like and subscribe. You know what the deal.
All
All
right.
right,
Indeed.
See you
bye,
guys.
All
friends.
right. Thanks.